Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk Tri-State with Tiny and Katie.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Tri-State, powered by Home Right Windows and Doors in Waynesboro. The right choice, winner in the 2024 Best of the Tri-State Awards.
We've had Jess on our show a few times now from Family Care Services, and you primarily work with the life sharing program. And we've talked a lot about the life sharing program. And what we're doing today, Tony, I don't even know if you know this. Jess is here. She's been a caregiver before.
Oh, yes. I remember. I know, yeah.
And we said the last time you were here, it would be really great to get a caregiver on the show to just talk a little bit about the experience firsthand. Yeah. So let's first start, Jess. Jess 1, Jess 2. Jess 1, quick overview for anyone who maybe hasn't heard of life sharing or is new to the show. What is the program?
Okay, so life sharing is a residential program for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They live with a caregiver in the caregiver's private home, and the caregiver takes care of them, provides supervision, support, education, whatever is needed for that individual to live an everyday successful life.
And it can be essentially a full-time job.
Yes,
right?
Yes,
okay.
We have lots of caregivers that do caregiving as full-time work for them, and Jess is one of those.
Perfect. So Jess, why don't we let you kind of have the floor here? How did you get started with this, or how did you know that you wanted to do this?
Well, so I never even realized that there was any kind of program like this, honestly, for these individuals. You know, you see the group homes and things like that, where there's multiple individuals living together, and a lot of times, you know, still only like 2 or 3 caregivers. So I had a friend actually that worked for this agency in the child foster care section, and she gave me some education on this and told me about an information night, and we went to the information night and found out a little bit more about it, and it just sounded like a really great opportunity to, you know, enrich these individuals' lives as well as, you know, enrich our own lives and bring new people into our family and our community. I also have a background in occupational therapy, so I actually work in a nursing home part-time as well. And over the years, I've worked with a lot of, you know, behaviors and diagnoses, and so I felt like my background in that kind of gave me a good place to start with taking care of these individuals, you know, doing self-cares and bathing needs, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what got me into it. We went to one of their information nights, and my husband and I decided it's something we really wanted to do. Also, he grew up with, his mom did this, but it was more with the adolescent program. And my mom also worked in a program with special needs folks, so it's not something that
you knew.
Yeah, I was pretty familiar with it. I was comfortable around them. So that's kind of how we got into it.
Can you tell us about the individual who came to stay with you?
We actually have 2 individuals.
Currently?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
In the program, you're able to have 2 individuals, which is the max, which is kind of nice. So you're always able to give your individuals, you know, the attention that they need, the assist, the supervision that they need. We have a female who's 49, severely autistic, nonverbal. She was our first individual that came to live with us, and she's been with us about 4.5 years.
Wow.
She was always kind of in a stable environment in this program or in foster care. So, you know, she's always kind of had what she needed. She's sweet. She doesn't talk, but she lets me know what she needs in other ways. And, you know, once you're with these people for so long, you just kind of,
you can read them.
Yes, yeah. You read them. You learn to read their body language, their facial expressions and things like that.
What was, obviously, don't divulge anything of severe substance here, but what was her situation as to the reason she needed to be in a different situation?
As far as we know, she was kind of like abandoned.
As a child.
Right?
As a child, she came to Family Care Services.
So it wasn't recent to being 49
No.
or
So
current age.
she had been with a previous life-sharing family for 20 couple years.
Okay.
And that family had met that point of retirement. They wanted to enjoy their grandchildren and do other things. And some of the things that they did were overstimulating to her and weren't things that she enjoyed. So
I bet that has to be tough for the family of over 20 years.
It was over 20 years.
To have to say goodbye. Do they still keep in contact at all?
They did at first,
Okay.
but I think, like she said, they're busy. I think they do.
Sure.
They are still working like their normal job, and they have kids. They have grandkids. They're involved with all their grandkids' sports and stuff. So I think they're kind of just enjoying their retirement years, and I don't blame them.
Sure,
They do still
sure.
reach out every year and say happy birthday and ask how she is and stuff. We haven't seen them for a little while, but that's okay.
It's so difficult and sad to imagine a child being abandoned, let alone a child who cannot communicate as 99.99 repeating percent of the population can, and the other way we can't understand right away. So I just cannot even imagine that. It's so horrible, but it's so wonderful that long ago a family stepped in and said, we'll help out.
And we were very fortunate to have Jess and her husband Brett come to us because they have formed almost the exact relationship. They understand her quirks. They understand her communication. She's not affectionate and doesn't care until she does, and then she'll pull you in for kisses on the cheek and give you hugs and all those things. And I've witnessed that myself, and I love it for her and I love it for them. Because while she did have to give up a home that she had for 20-some years, she transitioned to an amazing home and people that accepted her for who she was.
Transition went really well, honestly.
And you have another individual. Can you tell us a little bit about that situation?
Sure. So he is 28 and Down syndrome diagnosis. He's also pretty severely intellectually disabled. Excuse me. He came from a not so great situation where he had to be removed by Adult Protective Services and state police and all of that stuff. So he came to us with more trauma. There was a lot of things that we kind of had to work through, and just his distrust of people, and very sensitive about a lot of things. But he's been with us now for about 3.5 years, and I mean, he calls me mama and my husband daddy, and he's just the sweetest boy.
What is the relationship like with the two of them? Do they get along well?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that they don't get along, but they don't pay a whole lot of attention to each other. Once in a while they'll hug and be affectionate with each other, but for the most part, they just kind of coexist, and they're happy with that.
And do you have any other children?
No,
Okay.
we actually, when we started doing this, we had one son that was still living at home, but they have since moved out. So my husband has 2 older sons, and both of them are out of the house. So it's just these 2 that we're taking care of.
I have so many questions for you, Jess. I could just
fill a whole day with it.
I really could. Now, is this your full-time job, or your husband's, or do you both?
It's kind of both. Like it is our full-time job, and then we each work a separate part-time job. I've worked in therapy for 15 years now, so it's not something I totally wanted to give up, because I really like working with my elderly population as well.
But I'm sure that has to help.
Absolutely.
With the home situation.
Just having the knowledge, and absolutely. And then my husband also works a part-time job where he's able to flex and work from home, and if I'm working, he can be at home. If I have an appointment, he can be at home. So we were able to make it work.
I know Katie has a million questions, but and obviously I wanted to ask as many of them as possible, but I think this is a great question to ask you. What's the number one question you get that people, once people know what I do, every time they ask the same question?
Honestly, probably just how do I do it all?
Okay.
How do I, manage our individuals and their needs and their appointments and our own appointments, and keep up a household and keep a job?
What is their individual level of independence? So when it comes, my mind goes to, can they get lunch on their own or anything like that?
So our girl is totally dependent for everything. You know, she wears adult briefs for incontinence, and she needs fed and she
Showered.
needs showered, all of the things, every little possible, you know, self-care thing you can imagine, I do for her. Our young man, he's a little more high level. You know, he can get up and down steps and walk on more uneven terrain, and he can go get a drink out of the fridge or a snack out of the cabinet, but wouldn't be able to like cook himself for his own meal. Still needs a lot of help for, you know, self-care and hygiene things.
What do you find? I want to ask like two different ends of the spectrum here. What is the most? How has this impacted your life positively the most?
I think it's just really been rewarding and very fulfilling for us. You know, we've basically added 2 new family members, and it's been just amazing to watch how they interact with our family and with our community members, and just how much joy that they get, and which in turn, of course, brings us joy. And like I said, our boy, you know, calling me mama when I never had a child of my own to call me mama, so that just always warms and melts my heart.
What have you found to be one of the biggest challenges in being a caregiver?
Probably just the time management. Like I was saying, like people say, how do you do it all? And I don't have particularly difficult or behavioral clients. Like there really isn't any behavior. So I don't have any challenges in that aspect, but just, you know, trying to fit everything you need to do in a one day for yourself and for them, and keep the house clean and keep food on the table. And that's probably the biggest challenge. But
With the how much time do I have left here, Tiny?
About a minute and a half.
Okay. With the last minute that we have here, I just need to know when to start wrapping myself up. How have you found that Family Care Services has supported you through the process of becoming a caregiver?
oh, they've been great. Jess, when I first started, Jess was my social worker. She didn't have the position that she has now, so we had more of like a close bond relationship when she was my social worker, you know, and they're always asking, what do you need? Even the social worker I have now, she's great. I mean, I always tell her, if you weren't my social worker, you'd be my best friend. Always making sure I have what I need as far as paperwork and even just moral support. I know that I can even still Jess, you know, if I needed to text her in the middle of the night because I was freaking out about something, you know, I know that they would be there for me. And they make sure that I have all the tools I need to be able to successfully take care of these folks. And, you know, they try to help as much as they can with getting respite care when we need a break and a vacation. So they've been very helpful and supportive. And I mean, we wouldn't be able to do this without our social workers. And Jess is the supervisor.
There we go.
Would you come back for a part 2 so I can hit you with the second half of my questions?
Needs to
here?
reset everything, yeah.
Sure. I find this fascinating. I really do. I think the work that you both do is amazing. Really, I mean, you are so selflessly giving yourself to other people, and I know you know that, but truly, it's inspiring what you do, and the support that you have. And thank you so much for talking with us today on Let's Talk Tri-State. Love to have you come back.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.